Morning, Kal Kadosh. We're going to be continuing Daf Kaf Amud Aleph 28:1 on Masechet Eruvin. The Gemara asks, this is already Shabbat's Daf, yeah? Ba minei Abaye merabba. So comes Abaye and he asks from Rabba, Chatzer sherosha nichnas leven hapasim. I'm going to show you the picture, okay? It's over here. This is a Chatzer, right? If you can see over here. You see the Chatzer, Shirosha, that the head of the Chatzer is going in Ben Apasim. Right? Remember, this is the Biraot. You remember the well? The well, and these are the Diomdim. This is the well, and this is the Diomdim, the four corners. You remember the four different corners? And now this Chatzer is going inside of it. So the Chatzer Shirosha Nichnas Leven Apasim, Ma'u letaltel mitocha leben Apasim. So am I allowed to carry from here? Remember, this green area, green always means Reshut Yechid. Paved like this area, this road is always Reshut Rabim. Okay? So here you have Reshut Rabim in the back. Here again you have houses. It's all green. Here you have the Chatzer, which is coming inside of it. So because it goes inside of these things, does it make it now that I could carry in this entire area from here to here or not? That's what the Gemara is asking. Okay? So Amalei comes and he says, yeah, mutar. He says it's permitted. So he asks him, Shtai Mai, that's the next picture. Shtai Mai is the next picture. Look over here. You have two entrances in the Chatzer. You have one entrance over here and one entrance over here. Again, inside of this area. Remember, here's the Diomdim, it's called. Diomdim was like two Amudim. Dio, two Amudim. Okay, so here you got the Amudim, all of them, and now you have two entrances. What's halacha? Amalei comes and he says, Asur, it's going to be Asur. Okay? So Amar Ravuna comes and he says, Shtaim, yeah, Asurin, Va'afilu irvu. Okay, so this is the next picture over here. Amar Ravuna says, the Shtaim, the two Chatzerot, which are going to be open to, they're going to be Asurim, even if they made Eruve Chatzerot between them. What does that mean? That's why it says here, there's a picture that it says here, Petach. Everyone sees it? Move this a little bit away. Here it says. You see over here, there's a petach, there's an entrance. That means because of this entrance, which is like making this mechitza, which is dividing between them, even though the eruv is making the two chatzerot into one, that means this right now, this entrance, and I made an eruv. The fact that I made an eruv, these two are now considered one. So even though here there's two entrances, it's still going to be asur. Yezerab is there's a decree, Shema Yomru, maybe they're going to say, Eruv mo'in leben apasim, that the Eruv helps for between ben apasim, which means maybe you could do Shituv Chatzerot through an Eruv, even when the Ma'avar from one to one is only through this pasim, which means, right, technically speaking, mitzad halacha, this should be permitted, because since here you have an entrance, and you made an Eruv, it's all one. However, though, just in case the decree was maybe here you didn't have this petach, you didn't have this entrance, and then we're going to say that through this, you're going to permit both. So because of that, they said it's going to be asur. Okay, that's what the Gemara says. Okay, now it says, Rava says, yeah, imirvu is going to be mutar. If you did do an eruv, it's going to be permitted. Okay, this is going to be right now. So Amalei Abaye Rava, says Abaye to Rava, it's a little in a few seconds. Amalei Abaye to Rava, Abaye says to Rava, Tanya de Meselech, I'm going to bring a proof to your shita. Chatzer sherosha echad nichnas ben apasim, mutar letatel mitocha leben apasim u'ben apasim letocha. There's a braita mefureshet. The braita says, right, if you're going to have a chatzer, that one part of it is going in between the pasim, you're allowed to come and you're allowed to be mitaltel between that to the pasim and the pasim inside. Aval shtaim is asur. So this is going to be a proof, right, to what? To Rava, that it's going to be asur. One of these words, v'shelo ervu, avalim irvu mutarin. So this is like Rava, which means like this. If you remember, we asked this question, right, to Rabba. Amalei, right, this is what he said. Bami Abaye Rabba, with a hey. So Abaye comes and he asks Rabba, his Rebbe. He says, is it permitted to be metaltel inside of it or not? Answer was yes. There's two entrances, asur. So Abaye comes and he says Rav Huna, right? There's a machloket now between Rav Huna and Rava with an aleph, right? What about if you do an eruv? According to Rav Huna, if you did an eruv, it's still asur. According to Rava, if you did an asur, it's an eruv, it's mutar. So says Abaye, I have a proof to you, Rava. What's the proof? From this braita. So Lema you have to do Ravuna. So this is a question against Ravuna, right? This is a stira against Ravuna. So answers Ravuna, Amar lecha Ravuna, Hatam de Hadran ve'arvan. Right there, you actually made another eruv. That's this picture here. What does that mean? You made an eruv, which means that not only did you have the entrance between the two chatzerot, nifretza b'mechitza shebinehen od pirtza. That now everyone knows that it's one reshut. Meaning it's not only this entrance here, this petach. It wasn't only a petach. You had a whole pirtza, like a whole opening over here. And this breach in the wall shows that this is all considered one. So the fact that it's all considered one, now it's true, even according to Rav Huna, it would be permitted to carry outside here. Okay? So now says the Gemara, Ba minei Abaye merava. Yeah? So Abaye comes and he asks from Rava, right? Yavshu mayim b'shabbat mahu. What happens now if the water, you remember, we're talking about the pit in the middle, this bore. What happens if the water got dried in the middle? Are you still allowed to come and be metaltel inside or not? Why? But since the entire concept was only made in order to permit between the pasim, right? Are you going to say it's not going to be prohibited afterwards? Or maybe you're going to say the entire purpose was to draw water from the well. But now if there's no water in the well, the entire heter just went down the drain, right? So answers the Gemara, Amalei, so Abaye, right? So he comes, Rabba says Abaye, Klum na'aset mechitza b'shvil hamayim. He says what? The entire heter was only made for the water. Mayim en kan, mechitza en kan. There's no water, there's no mechitzot. Physically there's a mechitza, yeah, but the entire purpose was for the water. There's no water, there's nothing. Okay, that's what he says. So Abaye, Ravin comes and he asks, Yavshu mayim b'Shabbat, yeah, uvau b'Shabbat. What happens if it got emptied on Shabbat, but then the water came on Shabbat? What's halacha? Right? Why? Do they become again permitted or not? Because we just said if you had water from before and it gets dry on Shabbat, asur. But what happens if it got filled up on Shabbat? Again, it started raining, right? A sha'ata, boom, tropical storm. We'll filled it up in 5 minutes. Everything's perfect again. So now it's going to become permitted again or not? So Amalei Abaye, he comes and he says, Yavshu b'Shabbat lo tibai lecha. If it's going to get dried on Shabbat, it's not a question because we already said, right, that it's already a sur. So the question also is not about, even if it gets filled up again on Shabbat, but that's considered a mechitza which was made on Shabbat. The Tanya we learned in the Braita, kol mechitza suya b'Shabbat, any mechitza which is made on Shabbat, ben b'shogeg b'mezid, whether it was on shogeg or mezid, ben be'ones b'meratzon, whether it's be'ones b'meratzon, Shema mechitza, it's considered a mechitza, so if it's going to be okay. So from here we learn, it's going to be permitted. Even in the middle of the Shabbat, it's going to be permitted. So says the Gemara, Belav itmar Allah. But 1 second, wasn't it stated on that Amrav Nachman Loshano lelizrok? But that's only to throw things from one to another. Why? Because for sure, Mina Torah, it's considered a good mechitza. Aval taltel, but to completely come and carry, lo. Meaning this entire heter of a mechitza being done on Shabbat and you're allowed to carry inside of the mechitzot on Shabbat was only to throw from one domain to another, throw to one thing from another, but not to actually carry. So Kitman, then Rav Nachman amazed Ditman. He says, no. When did Rav Nachman say that you're only allowed to throw and not to carry if these mechitzot were done b'mezid, purposely? But if it wasn't done b'mezid, then you're even allowed to carry inside of it. Here it wasn't done b'mezid. It started raining. You didn't do anything b'mezid, so you're allowed to actually come and even carry inside of it. Okay? Amar Rabbi Elazar says, Rabbi Elazar, hazorek leben pisei abiraot chayav. If you're going to throw, right, one object from the Reshut Rabim to this area, so what do we say? We say you're going to be chayav korban chatat. With water. Right, with water. Yeah. Now we're going back to with water. I apologize. Yeah, we're going back with water. Okay? So he says, right, you're going to be chayav korban chatat. Why? He says because the place between the pasim is Reshut Yachid Gemura Min Torah. So it comes out that you did mamash achnasa on Shabbat. You put something from the public domain to the private domain on Shabbat. So Amar Rabbi Elazar says Rabbi Elazar, hazorek leven peseh birot chayav chatat. Pshita, obviously, ila mechitza here. If it wasn't going to be considered a mechitza, so how are you going to fill up water on Shabbat? Obviously, it has to be a mechitza. If it wasn't a mechitza, what are you going to do? So says the Gemara, lo tzricha. What are we talking about? The avad ke'en paseh biraot. You made like paseh biraot b'reshut rabim, v'zerak letocha, and you threw inside of it. You're going to be chayav because of again, achnasa, right? That you're bringing in, you're machnis, you're bringing in from the outside to the inside. So says the Gemara, hanami pshita, there's also a pshita. If it wasn't for the fact that it's a mechitza, how are you going to come and start carrying from the pit to the other place? It's also impossible. Yeah? So says the Gemara, lo psicha, what are we dealing with? He says, af al gav de kabake barabim, even though a whole bunch of people are passing through it, right? Still it's going to be permitted. Which means that usually I would have thought to say that if people are traveling through, it's not a private domain, it's a public domain, right? Because everyone's just traveling and going through it. Kamashmalan still, says the Gemara, my Kamashmalan. The what? That the Rabbim cannot come and be Mvatela Mechitza, that the people that are making it into a thoroughfare, they can't be Mvatela Mechitza. Hayam Rabbi Lazar Chadizir, Rabbi Lazar already told it to us once. The Tanam we're going to learn in the Mishnah later on, Kavbet Amud Aleph. Rabbi Yehuda says, Imaita derech reshut Rabbim, yeah, he says if there was a derech reshut Rabbim, umifasaktan. That means, imagine right now, there's a reshut Rabbim, which is passing through it. No, this is Kaf Amud Bet. Okay, there's no picture until later on. Okay. So he says, if there was a Reshut Rabbim going right through these biraot, right through it, there was a Reshut Rabbim. Everyone understands what I'm talking about, no? When I say that there's a Reshut Rabbim going right through it.
Yes.
Over here, this picture, you have the Reshut Rabbim, you've got tons of people passing right through. Meaning people are not going to go through here, the skinny part. They're going to go right through it. They're going to travel right through from here to here. So since there's a whole bunch of people passing through it, right? So then bring the Rabbim to another side, meaning over here, to this side, to this empty side, right? Why? Because if they go through here, you're being mivatel lemechitzot. You're annulling the mechitzot. That's according to the Shita of Rabbi Yehuda. The Chachamim say, it doesn't need. You could go straight through and there's no problem. Let them go. Continue going. There's nothing there. So Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Lazar, the Amar Tavayu, Rabbi Yochanan and Lazar both said, here, the Chachamim are teaching us, the Tana is teaching us the strength of what it is, a mechitza, that they're not going to be batel, even though you got tons of people going through. And you got people going through, went through. I don't care. At the end of the day, it's not batel. So says the Gemara, if it was already over there, Havamina, I would have had a Havamina, right? That I would have said, Kan velo svirle, which means Rabbi Lazar only abides by this when we see the Kochan Shel Mechitzot according to Chachamim. But Rabbi Lazar himself does not hold of it. And Rabbi Lazar himself doesn't hold of it, it's only Chachamim. Kamashmalan comes to teach you, Kan, right? Kan odiacha Kochan Shel Mechitzot, who svirle, and that he actually holds of it. Meaning not only over here we learn it, but we actually hold of it. That's how he holds. Okay? So says the Gemara, what does that mean? The one member of Rabbi Lazar is actually learned from the other member of Rabbi Lazar. Okay? Fine. Then we said in the two dots. That was the answer, by the way, that one of them was learned from another one. Okay? That he's learning from Zorek ben Pesach, that you actually learn that is the Hodiachakan, right? The Koach of the Mechitzot, that's why you're going to be Chayav. Okay? Because it's Mamash, it's another domain, it's a private domain. Fine, next, two dots. Mutal akriv labed. You're allowed to come and you're allowed to bring, right, close to the bed, the pasim close to the bed, and then you're making it smaller, which means, one more time, I'm going to show you the picture. Here, I'm allowed to bring these four diomdin, I'm allowed to make it smaller, make them closer, and by that I'm minimizing the space, right, in the middle over here. Okay, so mutal akriv et pasim, these are the pasim, I'm allowed to bring them closer to the be'ed, and then I'm making it a smaller area over here in the middle. Okay?
It has to be out of the shan, the delit.
Yeah. No, the truth is that we're not talking about the delit in this. Like, this is just some here. We could go back to whichever case it is here. Any of these things, okay, again, here was, pretend that they're all normal. Basically, I'm minimizing it to make it smaller. We had a picture
okay,
of it.
It's okay. Doesn't matter.
I don't remember if it was over here. No, it was not there. Okay, very good. Very good. Okay, we continue. We're by the two dots on the bottom of Kaf Amud Aleph. Yeah, the two dots says, Mutar la'akriv lebe'er. So we're permitted to bring, meaning, again, one more time, you had the four diumdin on the four corners, you're allowed to make it smaller, right, in order to bring it in. So says the Gemara, Tanan Hata, we learned over there, this is in a Mishnah later on, Tzadik Tet Amud Aleph. A person cannot stand in the Reshut Rabim, meaning he's in the Reshut Rabim, he's going to put his neck in the Reshut Yachid, and to drink in the Reshut Yachid. Right? The same halacha would apply the opposite. He cannot be in the Reshut Yachid, stick out his head or stick out a utensil and drink from utensil of Reshut Rabim. Ela im ken unless machnis rosho v'rubo l'makom shu shoteh. He has to bring his head and majority of his body into the other Reshuts. Okay? Kaf Amud Bet, 20b. V'chen begat. The same halacha would apply to the gat. Remember, the gat is where they used to squeeze they used to grind the grapes. Okay? So he has to bring his head and majority of body inside. So says the Gemara, Kabe Adam, ha'amar debai rosho v'rubo. Right? Gabe para, mi ba'ilin la rosho v'rubo or lo. Says once again, by a human being, in order to drink in a different reshut, you have to bring in your head, majority of the body. By a para, do you also need that? You need the head and the majority of the body, or not? Okay. So says the Gemara, Kol hecha de kanakit mana velo nakila. Any place where a human being is holding the kli for the para, velo nakila, right? But he's not actually grabbing the para in itself. Loti bailecha, there's no safek. The bayroshav rubam legav, but you need the majority, the head and the majority of the body inside in the Reshut Yachid. But if not, maybe the para is going to move its head or and the human being might carry it along with it. And he's going to carry, continue with the animal. And then he's putting it in the Reshut Yachid or Reshut Rabim. When is the question? That you're holding on to the kli and also the para itself. What's the halacha? Do we say that in also this case, do you need it? Or we're going to still suspect that maybe the animal will still move and then you're going to move with it. So Tashema, we're going to try to bring a proof. When it says mefurash in a braita, the braita says that the para rosha viruba mivtim. You need the head and, right, the rosh and the rova guf inside. Doesn't that mean v'nakila v'naki mana? You have it? So it says the Gemara, lo tenakit mana v'lo lakila. Which means that you're holding the kli, right? Ve'eno ochez b'para. But you're not, it says over here, ve'eno ochez b'para. Right? That means you're only holding the kli and you're not holding the actual para in itself, the animal. Okay? V'chinaki mana v'lo nakila mishare. Says the Gemara, if you're only holding the utensil and not holding the animal, is it going to be permitted to come and to do this? To give it to drink? But Tanya, we learned in a braita, lo imale adam mayim, you're not allowed to take water from the pit, right, from the bore, and put it on Shabbat and put it in front of his animal to drink. You're allowed to take it out, and then you can put it in the shoket, right? In the shoket is the trough, right, where it drinks water. And you're allowed to drink, right, on its own. Yeah? So therefore, you see from here, right, the Braita is talking about where an animal is already in the Reshut Rabim, the head and the majority of the body is ben pasim, is inside of the pasim, right? So therefore, what are you doing? And still, it's going to be a sur, right, for a person to come and to give it to drink on Shabbat. You have to pour it inside of the utensil, which is in front of it. So says the Gemara, Ha'it manala marabaye, says Abaye, hacha be'evu sa'omeh b'shut rabim, gavoa asarat tfachim. I'll show you the picture. Here it is. Ha'it manala marabaye, hacha be'evu sa'omed. Let me move this out of the way, sorry. Ha'omed b'shut rabim. So this evus is in the Reshut Rabim. The evus is a trough where it eats from. Okay, it's gavoa asarat tfachim. It's gavoa 10 tfachim tall and 4 tfachim, right, wide. V'rosho echad nichnas leben hapasim. And one of them is coming inside, ben hapasim. These are the pasim, remember, the diumdin. Okay, so you've got, one of them is going inside. So gezerah dilma, so therefore he says, right, what happens? Gezerah dilma chazle levus mikalkel. Maybe you're going to see that part of the levus will become mikulkal, will become broken. You're going to fix it. And you're going to carry the pail, which is over here, you're going to carry it with you. Then you're taking out from the Reshut Yachid to the Reshut Rabim. That means according to this, Abaye is not talking, or the Braita is not talking about that you're giving the animal to drink min hapasim. So therefore there's no stira from the Mishnah that you're allowed to actually grab the utensil and give it to the animal. Okay? So fine. So says the Gemara, in such a case, are you going to be chayav? Wow, it goes from Kaf Amud Bet to Kaf Bet Amud Bet. So there's no more pictures for another 2 Dafim. Okay? So he says, V'chiyai gavna mi mechayev? Are you going to be chayav in such a case? You're going to come and take out the bucket, right, on the other side? V'amar Rav Safra amar Rabbi Yamim Rabbi Yochanan. Says Rav Safra in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Hamfanecha chavatzav mi zavit lezavit. If you're going to move your utensils from one area to another area, nimlach aleim v'otzian, and then you decided, you changed your mind, you're going to take them out, you're going to be patur. Shelo hayta akira misha rishona lekach. But when you did that akira the first time around, it wasn't for that intention. Which means the question is, you had this bucket in your hand, this dli, right, the pail, right? What happens is afterwards, what's going on? You're coming and all of a sudden you realize that the trough got stuck, something, so you go and you fix it. If you fix this trough, you're going to be chayav. Why would you be chayav? When you did the akira, which is the picking it up the first time around, you didn't want to take it out. So therefore, why are you going to be chayav? Ela, but rather, zimnin de metakele, really, sometimes you're going to fix it. And then you're going to take out, you're going to put it back inside the evus after the fixing. Then you take him from Reshut Rabim to Reshut Yechid. And you're doing the achnasa, which is the doraita. And here you do have the akira, the uprooting it with the good intention, which means that you're going to be chayav. Ika da'amni, there are some people that have a different girsa in the Gemara. And by a human being, we already said the it's enough, the head and the majority of the body. By the param, is it enough or low? Or do we say that you have to be, right? And therefore it's going to be a sur. I mean, it's going to be even more machmir by an animal. So says the Gemara, if you hold the utensil, the nakila, and you actually have the para, loti bailecha, we don't have the safek. The second that it's already enough. So when is the question? You have the utensil, but you don't have the animal. Mai, what's the halacha? Is it permitted or not? So Tashma, we're going to try to bring a proof. As long as you have the para, the head and the majority of the body is going to be on the inside and it's drinking. My love, we're not talking about that you have the utensil and you also have velona kimana, but you don't have the animal. And so the Gemara, no, the nakima, you have both. You have the utensil and the animal, and that's why it would be permitted. It's also logical to say such a thing. Because if you only have the utensil, you don't have the animal. Mishari, is it permitted? We learned in a Braita, don't fill up. A person cannot fill up with water and give it in front of the animal. But rather, you could fill up the water and then you put it inside the trough and then it drinks on its own, and that's it. So you see from here that it's still going to be asur to give it to it on Shabbat with the utensil. You have to put it in the trough. So Haitmanalai was stated on it. Rabbi says, right, we're talking about the evus was in the Reshut Rabim, the same picture that we had before. The height is 10 tfachim, the width is 4 tfachim, and the top part is in between the ben apasin. The zimnin de chazale lavus de mikalkel, but sometimes you're going to see the evus that is going to be mikalkel, it's going to be ruined. And you're going to fix it. And then what's going to happen is you're going to carry the pail, the bucket inside of it, and you're going to carry it from Reshut Yechid to Reshut Rabim. So ask the Gemara, in such a case, you're going to be chayav. The Amar of Safra, Amar of Yochanan, says of Safra and Yochanan, if you're going to carry your utensil from one part to another part of Reshut Yechid, and all of a sudden you decide to take it out to Reshut Rabim, you're going to be patur. Because the Akira, Misha Rishona, was not from there. Meaning you're going to take it from one place to another place. You're all in private domain. All of a sudden I went outside to Reshut Rabim. I'm going to be patur. Because my Akira, the original Akira, was not to take it out to Reshut Rabim. So says the Gemara, Ela, you're right. Sometimes you're going to fix the evus, and then you're going to bring it back into the Reshut Rabim. Then you're going to be chayav because you're taking it from Reshut Rabim to the Reshut Yechid. Okay? Next. Tashema, we're going to try to bring another proof now. Okay, which is basically that when you have the animal and the utensil, are you allowed to give it to drink or not? If you have a gamal, a camel, that its head and the majority of the body is inside in the Reshut Yechid, of sinoto, right, you're allowed to put food in it inside the koach. You're allowed to stuff it with food. Mibifnim, if it's within the Reshut Yechid, so here you're allowed to do it even mibifnim, which means even if you're in the Reshut Yechid and the animal is also going to be in the Reshut Rabim, you're also allowed to do it. Veha ivus. Now this trough is like the naki manem nakil adamya. The evus, the trough, is like you have the utensil and you have the animal. The kabainan. So we asked Rosha v'ruba, right? So that's what we're trying to say, that you still need the kabainan, that you still need the Rosha v'ruba. Okay. So says the Gemara, it's not a good proof. Why? Amar Ravacha bar Rav Huna, Amar Sheshat, Shani Gamal hu letzavro aruch. He says, no, the camel has a very, very long neck. So since it's very, very long neck, he could switch his body, and that's why you need Rosho Verubo also inside, right? Because even if he is going to come...
But one question, why do you need to stuff him with food while he's inside on Shabbat?
Because if you remember by the camels, that's what they used to give them to eat. They used to have to stuff it down their throat.
I know, but do you stuff them when they're going on a trip? But Shabbat is standing. You could do it in the night or the next day. I'm just asking. I don't know.
The truth is, it's a very good question if I would understand a lot about animals. I have no idea. What, they don't give them to eat at all on Shabbat?
I mean, you don't have to stuff them.
Let's see what it says.
Because the camel, you stuff him when you're going on a long trip.
Like pâté foie gras with the goose.
Well, here, Shabbat, in the Gemara Shabbat, it says, you're right. It says, somebody that wants to go out, you want to take him out to the desert, and you're afraid that there's not going to be any food there, you're going to put it bal kurcho in his bet abliya, right? More than what he really needs to eat. You're going to, how do you call it, to top up, no? On the gas, top up. It's the same concept.
Yeah.
You have the gamal,
yeah.
Right? And he's not going to have food there, so what do? You top up. You fill him even more than what he can. Why? Just so that way he's got the food there. So it's called ibus.
Mm-hmm.
So now, so the Gemara just says that this Isur is only an Isur D'Rabbanan on Shabbat.
Okay.
So one more time. Ivus, the footnote here says, Ivus is a Sur D'Rabbanan on Shabbat, but Halata, which is very similar to that.
Halata, yes.
Halata is permitted, but it's something very similar. I don't know what the difference is. But here it says it's based on...
just like swallowing. And stuffing is like by force. It's like Isa said,
okay, so basically it's the exact same thing. You're basically stuffing them up, but just one is with force.
Yes.
Okay, very good. So then that's what we're talking about here. Okay, so the Gemara now says that the Gamal has a very long neck. So Tashema, we're going to try now to bring another proof. What happens if you have an animal with the head and the majority of the body is on the inside? So you are allowed to stuff it up in the inside. He says, 1 second, but this ibus is like you're grabbing the animal and you're grabbing the utensil. And you still need rosh of rubo. So says the Gemara here also, what is a behema? Also a gamal. So again, since the gamal has a long neck, you need that the neck, everyone should be on the inside, because if not, what's going to happen is it's going to move its neck and then you have a problem. Right? No, but that's what we're saying. Here, the behema is the gamal. That's what it says. It means even though it says in the Gemara, behema, it means the gamal. Okay? So says the Gemara, v'atanya behema, v'atanya gamal. He says, 1 second, but there's 2 braitas. The second braita taught one place, it taught behema. The other one taught gamal. So it's not the same thing. Saying if it's in the same braita, so either teach both gamal or both behema, but not one behema, one gamal. Then say, no, that other behema was also gamal. Doesn't make sense. So says the Gemara, he says what? It's really behemah, they were both taught together. So therefore, you're going to start being midadek in both of them, which means each one of the braitot were taught by itself, not together. So for one braita said behemah, one braita said gamal, but they both meant gamal, but they weren't taught mamash together, and then you could ask that question. One was taught one place, one was taught another, so they're both gamal. Tanya Miyachi, we also learned this in a braita. Rabbi Lazar said gamal. Rabbi Lazar says that it can be a sur to do this on Shabbat for gamal, because the tzavar is very, very long. So therefore, we're going to suspect that in such a case, he's going to come and move his neck into the Reshut Rabim, and then it's going to become a sur, and you did an isur. So Amar of Yitza Barada says, Yitza Barada, lo tru paseh biraot ela lo regalim bilvad. He says, do you know that the only time that it was permitted, these paseh biraot, was for ole regalim, not for anybody else. Meaning for you and me, it was prohibited. But for the people that did aliyah regel, for them it was going to be permitted. So says the Gemara, v'atanya lo tru paseh biraot legabe bilvad. So I thought that it was only for animals, not for a human being. So says the Gemara, my behemah, what does it mean behemah? Behemat ole regalim. Not for everyone's animals, just for the animals of the ole regalim. Aval adam, but a human being. Yeah, says the Gemara, kaf alef amud alef, metapes ve'ole, metapes ve'yored. What is he supposed to do? He's supposed to go down in the pit, drink, right? And go up, and then that's it. That's what he's supposed to do. He's not actually supposed to take out the water from there and drink it. He's supposed to go in and drink over there. And we continue, Bezrat Hashem Yitbarach, on Sunday.
Shabbat shalom.